Hey guys, welcome to the second session, actually the third session of the Android Study Jam sessions. And this is going to be the second session for the new to programming track. So in this session, it's going to be more of Q&A and doubt answering and all of that. And also we'll have a code run through of what you're expected to finish with by the end of the new to programming track. So again, for the prerequisites for this particular session is that you have at least completed the pathway 1 to 3, which were covered in the last session. And so yeah, if you have any doubts on that, also we'll be taking in this session, and we'll also have overview of how the pathway 4 will be looking and try to understand a few concepts of Kotlin, which have been taught throughout this track. So a recap from last time, we learned these three pathways, which is introduction to Kotlin, where we learned how variables are assigned and how we can use them. We also learned about the repeat loop and all of that in this particular pathway. And here we created the first Kotlin application, and we also learned about basic layouts, like what different kinds of layouts are and what are linear layout, what are constraint layouts, and things like that. And you also added an image and a text and created a small application which says happy birthday to a particular user or something like that. Today we're going to be learning about, and you also, so today we're going to be learning about adding a button to the application and all of that. I mean, this pathway is going to be teaching you all of that. We'll just have a final code run through only at the end. We'll also have, you can go ahead and earn your badges. I'm pretty sure you guys have earned your badges for the previous pathways. And in this pathway also, you'll be earning this particular badge, which is shown on the screen. So let's have a concept overview of what's going to happen when you attempt this pathway. So the first thing you'll be learning is how a main activity works and how different images can be changed and how a button can work and all of that. And we're going to be learning the concept of classes and objects. And in this thing, so you'll be learning what a class is. A class, as it says, is basically like a blueprint, which contains all the instructions, or you can say what the structure of that particular class should be, what it should contain, and it's like rules of writing what that particular thing should consist. And object is an instance of that class. So instance, as in it's like a you can say a copy, or you can say actual thing. So even in the quizzes, it's referred to a thing. So if a class is like a blueprint, then the blueprint or what it is made out of becomes the object. So a class can be like a blueprint of a dam, and the object can be the dam which actually got constructed, and it has its own properties. So all the properties and everything are specified in the class, but then the usage of them, or making it tailored for one particular instance, can be done using an object. So you can say here, so this particular object, this is an object instance 1. There's a second object instance, third object instance, but then the dice class. So the dice class says that there is something that has 6 sides, and each side has a number printed on it. So that is what the dice class can say. Now each instance can have its own variation of it. So this can say, I have 1 printed here, 2 printed here, and 3 printed here. This can say, no, I have 1 printed here, 2 printed here, and 3 printed here. So this has one, it's like a parent, and it has all the rules for it can use. And then this are like kids of it, and each of them have their own character traits. But at the end of the day, all have the same characteristics, but different traits. Right, so let's get started over this. So here, as you can see, this will be, if you go here, 1 second. Yeah. So in this link, which was shared with you guys previously, if you click on Unit 1 and Explore, this is the pathway that you're going to be focusing on today. And if you click on Explore, you'll be taken to this particular interface where you can go ahead and take each of these code labs. Taking the code labs, it did not help much last, taking the code lab on the during the session did not help much last time because people said that it's better if we let the students itself take the code labs. So that's what we're going to be following this time as well. So you guys can go ahead and take the code labs and then come up with doubts if there are any, and we can easily clear them during the session. And but now what we will do is like have a final overview of how the code will look at the end once you finish the entire code lab. So we'll have a code run through of how things will work. So it says it's suggested that if you go to this particular this URL can be found in one of these code labs. I think the last this code lab I believe, and this is the solution URL. So if you just go ahead and download the file, the zip file, you can find the solution of it. So I've already downloaded it. Let me try to import that in my Android Studio, and we'll have a run through of how everything is working in this application. Just opening my Android Studio. Until then, if you guys have any questions, you guys can, uh, ask them in the chat, and the core group members or I can answer them. Or you can also unmute yourself and ask. With the core team members, one of you guys can unmute yourself and answer the questions. I'll just have to restart my system for a technical issue. I'll be back.
Hi, Deep. We'll be uploading sessions on YouTube. So we'll put it in the WhatsApp group. And it's not necessary. The semicolon is not necessary in Kotlin. So if you like search for the same question in Google, you will get a link for the Kotlin language document. You can like the services from Google. They actually have very good documentation. So I'll like yeah. So if you go through the documentation, you'll come to know a lot about formatting and everything. So you can refer that also. But yeah, in a single line, the semicolon is not necessary. Do we have any more doubts? Mm, anyone? Chandri, Dev, Charitesh, Sai Tejashvi, Shruti, Tribhangan. Anyone? Guys, if you don't have any doubts, just raise our hand so that we can go ahead and end the session. I don't think there are any more doubts. You can end the session. We plan to take one more session, but as the participation is very less, you guys can continue with the two tracks. You have time till January 25th, and you have to complete both the tracks to receive a certification. Uh, so that is there, and Atresh will be joining us in a minute. So he'll be ending the session. Once he's back, he has some advice to give, and after that, if there is any doubt, you can always reach out to us on the WhatsApp group. After the second and third years are done with their facts, we will get back to you on the WhatsApp group regarding another session. And if you all require it, we will definitely do it, or else we will be clearing your doubt through WhatsApp or emails. Let us just wait 2 minutes for Asresh to join in again, and then we can end the session accordingly. Yeah, Asresh, you can take over.
Yes, sir. I just booted on my system and trying to import the project. And if this does not work, we can have the run through online itself.
Okay.
Has anybody here completed this profile? So you guys can share your screen and we can work over it. Or were there any doubts that were not answered or anything like that? All right, just give me a second. So you go over here and then try to import the project. For me, it's saying it's already existing, even though I deleted it once. Um, trying to get that. Right. That's not a problem. I'll just 1 second. This is more supposed to be a Q&A session. So if anybody has any doubts, you can ask and we can get them clarified. I mean, a lot of you have already asked doubts in the WhatsApp group, but if there is anything more, then you can go ahead. Okay, anyways, we'll try to understand the code from the code lab itself, and we'll close in after that. So here we're first trying to make a statement which is going to return us. So this is the solution code, and we're trying to make a function which is going to return a random integer value. So first thing what we do is we create a class called dice, and the dice takes in a parameter which is of the type integer, and it has number of sides. So whatever is being passed to dice here, so this particular here we're passing 6. So a dice of 6 sides is being created, and there's a function called roll inside it which returns the parameter type integer. And what does it return? It returns something between this in this range. So what in Kotlin, if you say one dot dot and num sides, you're saying from one until num sides, which is the value you're passing. Those many from 1 to that, whatever numbers exist from 1 to 6, you return a random value out of those. So a random value from 1 to 6 will be returned. So an integer, let's say from 1 to 6, any number that lies between 1 to 6, something like 3 or 4, will be returned. So now you're creating a dice. So my first dice is an instance of this particular class, and it is being stored in this variable. Now roll result is basically what the result, what this function role returns out of it. So this returns some value, it's being stored inside role results, and then you give a variable lucky number, which is what you're predicting a number to be, and then you're using this statement called when. So when is something like a switch statement in Kotlin. So if you use when roll result, so if your result is equal to lucky number, you print out you won. So whatever you predicted as your lucky number, if it turns out to be the same number which was rolled, that means when dot roll was called, the same number was returned, then you print out you won. If you say one, then it says, oh, sorry, it returned this much, then this, and so on. So this is like a switch statement. If this gets triggered first, then the program will finish and it will exit by printing you one, or else either of these will be triggered. Okay. So when is like a switch statement in Kotlin. So this is the main thing which was learned in this particular code lab. And let's see this one. In this, how what was learned. So in this, you learned about how to add images. So let's say to add images, you have to go to Android Studio and go into import drawables. So you go into resource manager and import drawables and add all these images into your project file. And all of them will go into this particular directory, which is R for resources, dot drawables. So R and drawables, and inside that dies one. So this is the first image, this is the second image, this is the third image, and so on. And how do we use these images? You can use them using a image view, as we learned the last time itself. So you can use an image view to put inside the layout, and this image view has a variable source. So the image source is variable, so you can choose whatever source you want. So over here, inside the XML, you can choose. So you can choose you can say the image source to be dice1 or dice2 or dice3. That is a way to do it through XML. And if you want to do it programmatically, what you do is basically take an instance of this image view, which is stored inside the XML file, and keep it as a variable. So here, what I'm doing over here, if you can see, is that this val dice image is an instance of the class image view. And how am I getting it? By finding it by view by ID. So what is find view by ID? It sees the XML files and sees where this image view is being used, and that is being stored inside image in this variable called dice image. And now if I want to change the image, then I just do dice image.set image resource, and I choose whatever resource I want to choose. So I can choose dice1 here, dice2 here, dice3 here, and so on. So if you want to see how this actually is being used in real case, so you say you have a function called roll dice, and what happens is that a variable called dice is being created, as we saw in the last time, and then we roll it, and then we get the image view which is associated with it. So let's say this is the layout, and then here an image view is put, and that image view had an ID of image view. We find that particular object and store it inside this image view, inside this dice image object, and then we change it to that resource. So here we're actually not changing it to any particular resource. Whatever is being rolled, we're not utilizing it. But in the code further, I'll show you how it can actually utilize. So here it says display the correct dice. So again, here what we're doing is if the dice roll is equal to 1, whatever the function returned, if it's equal to 1, then set the image resource to dice1. If it's 2, then set the image resource to dice2, and so on. But then doing these if else, what's going to happen? It's going to clutter the code up. That's why you use something called switch statements. But in Kotlin, switch statements are, when statement is the same as switch statement. So you say when dice roll is equal to 1, then you say when it's 1, you set it to 1, dice underscore 1. When it's 2, you set it to, and so on for all the other variables. So now whenever this roll dice is being called, a new instance is being created, it's being rolled, and you're also saving that image view and also setting it respectively. So as soon as this button is being clicked, this will happen. But how do you assign this button to this particular function? You can do it in XML, or you can do it in the coding as well. So you can either go into XML, and then wherever this button is there, you can go and click, set an attribute on click, and redirect it to this function by putting the name of the function here. Or you can get another instance of this button, and then you can set an on-click listener to it, which we've learned in the previous sessions of Java, and you can set that on-click listener to this particular function. Yeah, like here. So you can say you're finding that button by ID and then setting the on-click listener to this particular function. So whenever this button is being clicked, what is this button? It's the same button which we find in on the XML. And whenever that's being clicked, this particular function is being called. And what does that function do? It creates a new, you know, creates a new dice and then rolls it and then sets the image appropriately. So that is how classes and objects have been used to make this very simple rolling application, dice roll application. And you can also download the solution code from here and then try it out yourself, and make different apps from it. So that is what this entire pathway was all about. And you can take the quiz as well to earn your badge. That is what this pathway was all about. And if you guys have any doubts, you can clear it now, or we can end the session.
Atrish, I guess we can close the session since I don't think people have doubts.
Yeah, no, we'll just ask for a few. We'll wait for 3 more minutes and then ask. Yes, you can get the link. It was shared. Yeah, it was recorded and it is shared in the study jam sessions group in WhatsApp. And also you have the recording is being sent out in the mail. So you can check the recording there as well. Yes, one of the members can send the link in the chat here on Google Chat as well. Yeah, thank you, Arya, for that.
Hemant, Argo just put the link in the chat box. Right? I'll put it in. Yeah.
All right, guys, then saying no more doubts, we'll end the session. And hopefully, you guys can go ahead and complete this pathway as well. And we'll answer more doubts, if any, on other platforms. Thank you for joining, and see you guys.